Hey, everybody, welcome. I'm Natalie, and this is Scientology Life After a Cult. Today, in our very culty recap, we're going to talk about how Scientologist Tom Cruise has apologized to Brooke Shields. Nothing like waiting, I don't know, what was it, 20 years ago that he made his comments about her postpartum? We'll get into that. Amanda Palmer responds to Neil Gaiman's allegations. That's new news that just came out. We're going to talk about Scientology's blood drive. That was my attempt at sounding like Dracula. Blood drive. I mean, I got to work on it. I should have workshopped this prior to going live, but here we are. And we're going to talk about how the Jehovah's Witnesses and their boredom might be protecting them in a way. I was watching a video by a former Jehovah's Witness, and it was blowing my mind. And I want to share that with you guys because it's super culty. And he makes a really good point. Things I did not think about. Aloha to everybody coming in. Big thank you to the moderators for your help today. Hello, members. I see you there, and everybody in the live chat. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing aloha. Let's get on with it. Let's start out here with this Tom Cruise apology. Let's see. Let's pull this up. Well, let me set it up because I'm not going to read the whole thing. Many of you, some of you might not know this because I swear it was 20 years ago. God, no way could it have been 20 years ago. 15 years? I don't know. Anyways, Tom Cruise was on the Today Show. It was back when Matt Lauer was still there before Me Too. And he went off for some strange and bizarre reason about Brooke Shields and her postpartum depression and her taking psychiatric drugs. Because, in Scientology, you not only can you not take psychiatric drugs, but postpartum depression is not a thing, as is ADHD, autism. Those are all not things in Scientology. And for some reason, he decided that would be a great time while promoting his movie. I think it was The War of the Worlds, to come out and let's talk about that and let's call her out. Well, it did not go over well. I think many of you remember this. Eventually, I think what ended up happening is he dropped his PR person that I think was his sister, got another one, and realized he needed to zip it when it comes to Scientology, psychiatry, and his beliefs about all of that. So Brooke Shields has a book, I do believe, that's out. It says Brooke Shields says Tom Cruise eventually apologized for his ridiculous rant about postpartum depression. Do you guys remember that? Give me a 1 in the chat if you remember, because this was a long time ago. And many people are not as old as I am, which makes me wonder, like, if they even heard about when this happened. Okay, Anna did. It was such huge news. Mayor's Girl, thank you. Encarnasol, Florence, Bob, the most embarrassing moment. Bob says the most embarrassing moment of my Scientology career. Bob, were you still in Scientology then? Yeah, it was massively embarrassing. It was I think there were many Scientologists who felt that way and couldn't say anything. Because what are you going to do? Write a knowledge report on Tom Cruise? Although I guarantee you somebody did. Scientologists and their snitch culture and feelings of like they are the authority. They are the ones authorized to call out the people who need to be called out. This is a Scientology, their point of view. Some Scientologists wrote a knowledge report on Tom Cruise for acting a fool. I bet. If anybody has heard that happening, let me know. Natalie at lifeafteraCult.com. All right, Chantel, Janet, also ones. Interesting. I'm glad that you guys were around for it, but if you weren't, that is what happened. Reprise 53 says, Tom Cruise, instead of thinking he's so much better than everyone else, if he really understood ARC, which is affinity, reality, and communication, he would have known better than to say what he did. That is a great point, and that is something that often comes to mind for me. It's one of the contradictions in Scientology. When you get into Scientology as part of your basic training, you learn about the ARC triangle, where it's affinity, reality, and communication. And L. Ron Hubbard says, if you raise affinity, you raise reality and communication. If you raise communication, you can raise affinity and reality. Makes sense. This is something that L. Ron Hubbard codified in his own way, but this is something known outside of the world of Scientology. because I found out about it afterwards. So many things I found out that I thought L. Ron Hubbard came up with. Then I leave Scientology and I get exposed to so many other things, and I'm like, what? It's crazy. There's still things. There's still things. And I find it very interesting that the things that I found actually helpful in Scientology were universal truths. These weren't things that were specific to Scientology. Thank you, Marcy. Natalie, we're so glad you're out here and with us. Me too. Me too. So let's take a look at this here. Let's go back to this. Let's see. So okay. So this says it's been nearly 2 decades since Tom Cruise publicly criticized Brooke Shields for using antidepressants to treat her postpartum depression, but she certainly hasn't forgotten how it felt to stand her ground. So she's got this new memoir, Brooke Shields is Not Allowed to Get Old. Thoughts on Aging as a Woman. Oh my gosh, I want to read that so bad. I'm going to have to listen to it on Audible. I'm all for a conversation about this. We need to do book club or something, because I would love to discuss this. You guys know here on the channel, I've been going through growing my gray out and struggling with I don't know, can I do that while on YouTube? And then I went, well, Natalie, why can't you? It's just hair. Why can't you? Why can guys grow out their gray and nobody says anything? But there's this expectation that we need to hide it and cover it up. And there's nothing wrong with coloring your hair. I reserve the right to change my mind and go back to coloring. But I think the topic is very interesting, which makes me want to read her book. So there's no such thing as a chemical imbalance. The thing that I'm saying about Brooke is that there's misinformation. Cruise insisted at the time. She doesn't understand the history of psychiatry. Do you remember too? He said that to Matt Lauer. You don't understand the history of psychiatry. I do. I do, Matt. You're glib. You're glib. It was a fun time. It was a fun time in Tom Cruise lore and history. So basically, she reflects on it in the book and his stance, and says, an interesting opinion coming from someone without ovaries. Point to Brooke Shields for that comment. She goes on to say the actress went on to say that while the attack left her gobsmacked, shock was not enough to keep her silent. You go, girl. You go. Had Tom taken a public swing at me before I became a mother, I probably would have stayed quiet. Shields admits, I would have ignored his ridiculous rant. I might have even been content to sit back while this very famous man hijacked my experience to advance his own deluded agenda. I would have been satisfied that his behavior would speak for itself. But, she continues, Cruise's rant came a month after her 40th birthday, as Shields was finally beginning to embrace self-confidence. I was emboldened by life experience, she writes. So instead of letting myself turn into a punching bag, I swung back. And boy, did she. Goes on to say, comments like those made by Tom Cruise are a disservice to mothers everywhere, Shields wrote in her piece, to suggest that I was wrong to take drugs to deal with my depression and that instead I should have taken vitamins and exercise shows an utter lack of understanding about postpartum depression and childbirth in general. If any good can come from Mr. Cruise's ridiculous rant, let's hope that it gives much needed attention to a serious disease. So in her memoir, she shares that prior to penning the op-ed, which is what her response that she came out when this happened, her then publicist advised her not to dignify Cruise's comments with a response, but that only infuriated her further. I wasn't dignifying anything. I was sticking up for myself and for women who were suffering from irrational and dangerous comments from an unschooled actor who was speaking way out of his depth, writes Shields, who added that she later fired that publicist. Good for her. When Cruise apologized a year later, Shields initially described the apology as heartfelt, but reflecting on it now, she admits that she wasn't all that impressed by his words of regret. She says eventually Tom Cruise apologized to me, not publicly, which would have been the right thing to do, but he came to my house and he said he was sorry and that he felt cornered by Matt Lauer and that he attacked me basically because he could, Shields recalls. It wasn't the world's best apology, but it's what he was capable of, and I accepted it. I thought that was really telling too, the way she worded that. It's not what he's capable of, because I could see that not being in his wheelhouse. And I know I'm interested in reading her book. So if any of you are going to read it too, let me know, because I would love to talk about it. Maya's Girl says, yes, that would be awesome. Love Brooke and her openness. Absolutely. Zakia, what irks me about Scientology is that many concepts are taken from psychology, but then the psychs are evil. Yeah, exactly. That's a common theme. It's a common theme. I think in ways when L. Ron Hubbard wrote Dianetics, he expected to get this amazing fanfare and welcome from the field of psychiatry, and he got the opposite, rightfully so. And he was butthurt about it ever since. Ever since. Then came up with all these rules for Scientologists in regards to psychiatry. Now let's take a look. We're going to look at a little vintage piece here. This is from Xenu TV. I've been diving into a lot of Mark Bunker's content that he had before that he's making into 4K, and I've really been enjoying watching it. And again, it's over on Xenu TV, which is Mark Bunker's channel. You can find it. Well, did you guys see the video that he just shared that had Tori Magoo 44 in it? This was fantastic. This is from Xenu TV, Tori Magoo 44. I don't know what year this was. It was some time ago, but watch this. This is right at the Blue Building.
You're the head of PR. I'm saying this in the window. Get out here. I just couldn't believe it that the head of PR couldn't even talk to me.
So she's talking about, and she explains that it's Kay Conley. Kay Conley at the time was a public relations person for Scientology, very senior one. She was in the C organization. And some of you might remember if you watched a couple of my videos where I shared my experience of what it was like to be pregnant in the C organization at a time when that was not allowed. And there was immense pressure on married couples to no longer continue with their pregnancies so they could stay as free labor in the C organization. And when I was pregnant, I was in a bathroom and I was still on post at the time. It was towards the end of my pregnancy, and I ran into Kay Conley in the bathroom, and she looked at me up and down like this with a look of utter disgust on her face. Scientology's public relations person, okay? This person would go out and be like hanging out with John Travolta, going to premieres, representing Scientology. Looks me up and down. I'm massively pregnant. And she says to me, how could you do that? How can you do this? Have a baby. Have my baby. Have mine and my husband at the time's baby. Not in the pregnancy. It was to her, in her mind, it was an utter betrayal. And it was shortly after that I was basically sequestered to my room, which I got to be honest, I didn't hate it because at least it got me out of working the hours that I was. I wasn't allowed to leave. They didn't want people seeing me so pregnant, lest they become disgusted like Kay Conley did. So that's my history with her. But let's listen to what Tori had to say.
You can't come out and talk to me?
Hold on, let me back this up a little bit because I forgot to pull it up on the screen because all I could think about is, oh my gosh, I want a sip of my coffee. Here you go.
You're the head of PR. I'm saying this in the window. Get out here. I just couldn't believe it that the head of PR couldn't even talk to me. Kay Conley works right up there. She's the head of PR with Scientology. And the last time I picketed here, she was hiding behind a glass door inside. I said, Kay, you're the head of PR. You can't come out and talk to me? You know, it's just unbelievable to me that they literally have got these people to a point where
now, this man walking by is, I think his name is David Light. He was a big registrar for Flag in Clearwater. So this is the guy that would collect the money and pressure Scientologists to pay exorbitant amounts of money, including Tori. And she calls him out on it right there on the street as he's trying to avoid her and quickly walk by.
You can't even talk to me. You took $200,000 of my money and you won't even walk by me. And you're supposed to be a communications release? You're a fraud, man. That really pisses me off. That guy took over $200,000 of my money, millions of dollars from Scientologists, and he can't even stop and say a word to me. That is pathetic. It's saying I'm an SP and that's why. That is so pathetic. It's like such a fraud.
Absolutely. I love seeing some good vintage Tory there. I love that. Love seeing it. And there's a good amount of it too on Tori Magoo 44's channel and also Mark Bunker's channel, Xenu TV. So if you got some time, go check it out. All of the video clips and articles that I'm going to share today, I'm going to put in the description of this video as soon as we are done here. That's right, Anna. Tori was really fired up and she should be. Always spunky, always spunking. Spunky. Yadira, thank you for the reminder. Hit that like button, y'all. I appreciate it. And hit your subscribe as well. Now, let's look at something else here. The Underground Bunker put out an article on how a vanished Scientology executive voted in the last election, and there are some other gems in there. We're talking about Sea Org members at the highest level who work directly with Scientology's leader, David Miscavige, which really makes me feel like this would be a good time to wake up the Office of Special Affairs, since we're going to be talking about them, and it's only fair. Hold on. I'm attached to my chair. There we go. There we go. All right. David Miscavige, please wake up your Office of Special Affairs on this beautiful Thursday before 2. We can be extra loud on Thursdays because it's like their busiest time of the week right before 2. Woo! Okay, Office of Special Affairs, we're going to get into it. So back to this article because it actually lays out who from that international base, these senior members who voted into the election, who voted in the election, who nobody has seen for quite some time. So it's all very sus, as the kids would say. Check this out, you guys. We're going to go look at this list here. I'll link it down below so you can read the whole thing. So this explains, this is Executive Director International, Guillaume Lefebvre. Haven't seen this man in a million years. You used to see him in the Scientology event. Oh, hold on. Hold on. There we go. Thank you, Abigail. I had to re-click my mic there. Thank you, Abigail. Did I see Don Gloves? Hey, Susan. Hey, Marcy. Okay, so he was, of course, this bigwig in Scientology and management. No one sees him because David Miscavige started to systematically throw people into the hole, the double wide trailer where they were kept, where there were bars on the window. They were emotionally, physically abused. And yet, somehow now, here is a list that was put together of people who were in the hole. The ones in bold voted in the last election. And you might be thinking, well, Natalie, I mean, how are they being allowed to out and to vote? Well, they weren't allowed out. It was all done by mail. They weren't allowed out. So you can see a list of people who were in the hole. Then you see Cheryl Azevedo, who's 80, voted. David Bloomberg, not on there. Russell Baleen, 64. Veronique Bromberg, 62. Amy Conley, 55. Richard Cruzen, 70. Anthony Decrescenzo, 44. That's like one of the youngest people on this list. Ray Medoff, 73. This is what struck me as, so Taryn Rinder, she's 46, so she voted. The number of people on here and their ages, 71, 63, 75, 69, 59, 68. So many of these people are in their 70s. Mark Ingber, any of my former Scientology friends, you're going to recognize some of these names and are apparently still there and aging rapidly. I'm going to link that down below so you can take a look at it. But I thought that is an interesting story because when I was in the Sea Org, I don't ever remember voting or it even being brought up to me. But now that I think about it, I was of age. Well, when I turned 18. So this is interesting to me. Like, why now? Why now? I don't know. But more disturbing is the number of people that have been identified as being in this hole and how old they are today. We worry about it. If you watch Mike Brown's channel and you're familiar with his mom, Rosemary, they too put together a list of Sea Org members who are seniors and in facilities where they're not getting proper care, just like was the case with Mike Brown's mom, Rosemary. It's super disturbing, Marcy. Yeah, it's a real eye opener. And again, I'll link that down below at the end of this video. All right. You remember we talked about a few days ago, well, we've been talking about the California fires and Scientology's response, which so far has been to go to different distribution centers, take stuff and hand it out as their own. Although that's unfair, Natalie. They did collect some things on their own. They did make an Amazon wish list so that Scientologists and others could donate items that they then could hand out, which is fine. But I think the pushback on that is you are a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar human trafficking cult. Where's the money? Where's that money at? All these buildings, all these funds. You know that Scientology is going around to their members saying that they need to donate money to, say, the International Association of Scientologists to help this campaign, to help people donate it to the volunteer ministers. It's almost like they're double dipping, though, but they don't actually pay for it themselves. And this is not new. This has been the case in Scientology for a long time. They'll fundraise for something through one of the front groups while also raising money here for it and using that money. What happens to this money? Where did this money go, Office of Special Affairs? Inquiring minds want to know. I want to know. Aloha, everybody jumping in the chat and saying aloha. Thank you so much for that. All right. So we were talking about how they end up, for the photo ops, the volunteer ministers have been going out and getting photo ops and how they've been getting in front of the cameras. Well, somebody shared a video that we're going to look at of them doing exactly that. It's so cringe. Prepare yourself for cringe. Okay. We're about to cringe big time. We'll try and undo the cringe later, but right now we just got to cringe because this is so cringy. Okay, so what are we looking at here? So we're looking at a video that somebody took from their television here, and watch what happens while this guy's doing a live shot here. Watch what happens. You don't see anybody else walking by. Watch what happens.
And take a look at this. There are now donations as far as the eye can see. Lines of shoes, piles of...
Oh, there we go. Volunteer Minister 1 picking up a bin.
Clothes, hot meals. If you lost your home...
Oh, there's the other one. Got a mask on, working that phone.
In a fire, this is
oh, there's that guy. We saw him a lot.
The place to come. So this is...
Do we go this way? Do we go this way?
Now in a huge parking lot in Arcadia,
they're literally having to step over things to get in front of the camera. Did you guys see that? Literally stepping over things to get in front of the camera. Oh, again, I'm surprised they're not waving to the camera. I keep joking that I feel like that's what it gives. They're just going by like they're in a pageant. Hello, volunteer ministers here. Look at us in our yellow jackets doing all of the things. No. Yeah, Marlene says cringe indeed. I know, right? And I'm so sorry to do this to you guys, but yeah. Bob, right? I had that thought too. How much can you be out there really helping y'all clean in your yellow jackets? Good point, Bob. Good point. Nisa, they are so milking it when taking that photo op. Exactly. Yep. Jamie, they get on camera for any purpose, any reason. They see a camera, they flock to it like moths to a flame. Like moths to a flame. Is that a camera? Is that a camera? Let me get in there. Let me show my volunteer minister's logo. I mean, it's embarrassing. But they are indoctrinated to do this. It is a big push in Scientology because they believe that Scientology is the only thing that's going to help people by clearing the planet. So they're doing this because they really believe that it is helping. And when those people, when they realize what Scientology is and they leave, they're going to cringe too. They are. I cringe so much at the stuff I did while I was in Scientology in terms of how I thought, or that I really thought by promoting Scientology that I was doing something good, that I was actually helping other people. And that was after my whole experiencing in the Sea Org. Because often leaving Scientology is a process. You bump down a level, Sea Org, to just public person, and then public person at, doing Scientology. And I had 3 generations of my family in Scientology. So it would have been even more difficult to leave at that time. And I was dealing with a lot. When I left the Sea organization, I was a wreck. I think it's the best way to describe it. I had it would be 20 years before I would deal with the trauma of my SA that was covered up in the Sea organization. 20 years. And it showed when I left. But here we are now, Office of Special Affairs. Your girl has done a lot of healing with a lot of help. And I am here shining a light on the abuses of Scientology. So, might have made me, didn't break me. And all of you guys here as well, even all of you never in Scientology, but all in on ending this cult. Thank you so much for being here. All right, let's look now at some MD Media. I love watching MD Media 18. So he was out at the Blue Buildings. And of course, it's speculation that Scientology uses jammers. I don't know. It just kind of seems like if you move away from the Blue Buildings, your stream is fine. But when you get to certain parts of the Blue Buildings, your stream is not fine. Could be coincidental. Could be cell phone jammers. I don't know. We're going to watch this. And while we're watching it, I want you guys to tell me in the chat. Put a 1 if you think Scientology is using cell phone jammers. And a 2 if it's like, no, now, girl, you're just being paranoid, which is fine because I do get paranoid when it comes to Scientology. Let's take a look at this. Tell me what you guys think. We're going to look at a couple clips from him too, where you're going to even see it more. Look at all these boxes from Amazon, bulk. I think a lot of this are masks because you can see the 3M thing on it later. I don't know what the other stuff is. Could be stuff from their wish list. Always amazes me too how in California or Los Angeles, people can just leave stuff outside because, not because of theft. They got cameras everywhere there. But here where I live, it's like, it's going to rain, it's going to snow. But in Los Angeles, you can just like leave things out. You can leave your outdoor furniture out. That is kind of a little nice thing of living there. But then, then you have to be living in California.
I think there's just trash and stuff, debris from the trees.
And as you can see, they've got their volunteer ministers tent set up right there at the Los Angeles organization. You'll notice lots of supplies, nobody there picking them up.
Now I'm curious to see what's in the dumpster.
He went and checked the dumpster. There was nothing in there. And there's their sign about it. At least they're not pressure washing, the sidewalk, at least not right now, which I found interesting. They weren't out there pressure washing that sidewalk today or yesterday when this video was done. But, the week is still young. It's only Thursday. There's still time for Scientology to get out there with the pressure washer, thinking that it's going to keep live streamers away. Not even thinking about you're wasting water. There's a fire. There's a drought. People who are traumatized might be coming to pick up supplies and you're out there with a pressure washer on a clean sidewalk. The math does not math Scientology. It is such a bad look. Such a bad look. All right, let's look now where he goes down the street and MD Media comes upon a gaggle, a flock, I don't know what you'd call it, of Sea Org members. Well, turns out they just got out of some big meeting that they all were in. And notice how horrible the connection is too. Let's see here. Hold on. Okay, so some of you do think about the cell phone jammers. I think so too. I really do. Look at this. Let's look at this other video from MD Media here. I feel like you can really see it here. Here come walking all these Sea Org members. And as he goes down, the signal gets worse and worse and worse. You can't even make out their faces. And I think that's the idea. And there's security. Is the jammer on the security guard or in the building? I don't know. But they're all coming out. When's the last time we saw this many Sea Org members together? But then we find out in another clip that Scientology had just had some big meeting. So you see them all going in. Some of them got coffee. Where are they going? Rushing in. They're being told to move faster by security, who's going down to this line of people and saying, run in, my birdies, run in. But you can't make them out at all. Like, the signal is so bad. And this keeps happening. This keeps happening. Cubana Chica, you did not miss much. You can always catch up, but I'm glad you got some coffee. Settle in. Yeah, coffee's massively important. Coffee, tea, whatever your drink is in the morning. Okay, so now we're going to look at this other clip from MD Media, because he goes around the corner to L. Ron Hubbard Way, and it turns out there's a blood drive going on. The blood, give us your blood. Now, blood drives are amazing and very, very needed. It sounds like what happened is UCLA had another location. They weren't able to host it at that location, and Scientology stepped up to offer their venue, which, good. Use it for something. But how many people are going to show up at a Scientology building to give blood? Can you imagine that call to action? Come on down to the Church of Scientology, to our blue buildings, and give us your blood. Yeah, we're going to be there while professionals stick needles in your arms. Giving blood is something that everybody who can, I think, it's such a beautiful thing to do. I have family members, including my Tony, who benefited from blood donations. I would do it more, but ever since I gave my mom a kidney years ago, my hemoglobin is never high enough. I always get turned away until no, which is a bummer. But good thing to do a blood drive, unfortunate thing to do it in a Scientology building. So let's take a look at this clip from MD Media where he runs into the lady from UCLA who's doing the blood drive.
Not too much longer. 5 more minutes or so. UCLA blood drive. So UCLA is putting this on. Yeah. So UCLA is partnering up with Scientology. City of Angels Fun Ride. What time do they start? Okay.
So yeah, come on back and tell if you don't mind spreading the word.
Yeah, I'll try to come back. They might not let me because I have a camera. They don't like the cameras.
Oh, well.
But I'll turn the camera off, of course. But they might not let.
You know, if you're willing to do that, that would be great.
Yeah.
Because you know, we're here as guests.
Right. And has Scientology invited you guys, or?
Yeah.
So she goes on to explain how Scientology did step up after they lost their venue. And okay, props to Scientology for sharing the venue there. I will give them that, right? They do enough that's crazy and wrong that let's hope. But don't get it twisted. We know the only reason they're doing it is for the clout and to recruit people. Because what have we seen? Scientology out at Streets LA, William Good shared a tweet the other day with a message from a guy who went to volunteer, and they basically kept trying to have him go in and do a personality test and recruit him. So it makes it difficult, but this is a way Scientology wants to show, you know what, we're a church, we're doing a blood drive, we're doing those things, and they are good things to do. But the lengths Scientology goes to promote their good works and to hold it in a place that they know people aren't going to come. So what I would imagine is going to happen is Sea Org members will end up doing the blood donations. I don't know. I mean, who else is going to do it? Maybe they'll have people who would come and do the donation, but I would imagine Scientology saying, all right, guys, get your butts in there, because it's a public relations action, and go donate blood. And donating blood is not a bad thing. It is a good thing. My brain goes to, are they given a choice if they want to donate blood or not? Are they going to be given the time afterwards where you're supposed to like stay and have a snack and stuff, or going to be made to just get up and go? I don't know. I just have a hard time accepting that Scientology does anything that's purely altruistic, that there's not some other agenda and motive, because we see it all the time. And that was my experience when I was in Scientology. So not buying it. All right, switching subjects. Well, not really switching subjects, but I want to share with you guys. If you go to Scientology Crimes here on YouTube, there I spoke with Mona Fat Grammy, as she's known on YouTube, and she's working on collecting numbers, data as a data point to share it with law enforcement. And what Mona did is she created a Google Doc which asks questions of former Scientologists. Nothing identifies you. I mean, you can even use a different email if you don't want to use your email. They're very yes or no questions. I'm going to share it with you, but this information can help with what she's trying to put together with law enforcement to say this many, this many, this many. It doesn't mean that you have to go share your story or anything like that. It's just how many people did these things happen to. So let's take a look at that Google Doc here. I'm going to link it below. So here's the first question. What age did you join Scientology? So this, of course, is going to apply only to former Scientologists. 0 to 18 for me. Did you receive audit ethics courses? Yes, I did. Were you moved to other states, California to Florida? Yes, I was. Were you ever assigned to the RPF? That's the Rehabilitation Project Force, the punishment camp in the Sea Org? No, I was not. Have you ever attempted unaliving yourself or have ideation? Yes. Are you disconnected from family? Yes. Did you join the Sea Org before 18? Yes. Were you told not to report anything to authorities? Yes. Did you receive appropriate schooling? No. Were you brought from or moved to another country visa? No, that wasn't my situation. So it's that simple. You hit submit and it goes in. It's just the numbers, counting the numbers. And if you have any concerns whatsoever about your identity or you being found out, you even filled it out, use a different email. Just make up a different email for it. I'm going to link that down below. Any former Scientologists who are willing to give that information to help with what Mona Fat Grammy is putting together for law enforcement would appreciate it. Now let's see. Where are we now? Oh, yes. We haven't talked about this in a while. The whole flap in New Haven over Scientology having to pay taxes for their building. I know what you're thinking. Wait, Natalie, Scientology is tax exempt. That's the whole thing. They don't pay property taxes. Well, girl, no. If they do not, if you buy a building in New Haven and you don't get the renovations done in a certain amount of time, then you lose that tax exempt status on that building. So Scientology has a $77,000 bill. And I just love that it's being called out here. Let's look at this here. Hidden in New Haven, explore Connecticut's only Scientology center. In recent years, documentaries about the cult of Scientology have sparked widespread debate. You guys know a lot of this stuff talks about Leah Remini and all of that. However, so they bought this building in Connecticut or in New Haven, deteriorating, which has been, okay, despite promises to renovate, the building has remained vacant and deteriorating for over 20 years. The church/cult has instead operated out of a nearby property, and local residents have long advocated for the site to be redeveloped to benefit the neighborhood. So, and it links a story when this first came out, like last March. So the church is now required to pay property taxes with an estimated 2023 tax bill of over $77,000 based on a property assessment of 2.07 million. So give some links to more information about that. But if you're curious about that, or you're in the area and you were wondering what was up, I want to know, like, did they pay it? I mean, this article is recent, but didn't get into, like, did they pay it? If they did, how did they pay it? Can you imagine? $77,000, almost no Scientology presence in New Haven, but let's be real, that's almost everywhere, except for California and Florida. All of these organizations everywhere are pretty much empty. Some quite beautiful because they've renovated them, but empty. Nobody is showing up there. Jamie says anything that hurts Scientology helps Anything that hurts Scientology is helps, including paying taxes. I hope they paid it. I don't know. I'd like to find out. I couldn't find whether they did or not. If you guys know, let me know. Natalie at lifeafteraccult.com. And send me anything you see that's culty and interesting, you guys, too. I love when you guys email me. Make sure if you're sending me a clip that you give me a timestamp and tell me what I'm looking at. That would be awesome. I always love seeing what you guys are looking at and what you're interested in talking about. Okay, I got to move over and talk about another cult for a hot minute here because this really caught my attention here. And it's the Jehovah's Witnesses. I've been learning more about them and their similarities to Scientology in terms of their cultiness, including how they do shunning, which is Scientology's version of disconnection. And there is a guy here. Let me pull this up. He did this great video, Alt-Worldly. He is a former Jehovah's Witness, but listen to what he's talking about in terms of the Jehovah's Witnesses weaponizing how boring they are. Why? Because think about it, like you go on Netflix, you got all these Mormon documentaries, you got all these Scientology documentaries, you got documentaries on all kinds of other cults. There really aren't that many on the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I wondered why, and this guy really makes a case for it. Listen to this.
Unless they are called to court, there is simply no way to get a hold of them. There are security gates at Bethel. You cannot just get to these governing body guys. Unless you're an investigative journalist and might be able to track down their whereabouts, in which case they're just going to run away from you like they did with Trey Bundy that one time. When you think about it, the governing body are every bit as inaccessible as someone like David Miscavige. You know the Where's Shelley thing, like what happened to Shelley Miscavige? Like literally all of the governing body members' wives could have disappeared for all I know. We don't know anything about them. So I think this is the challenge that we face as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses trying to raise awareness of the group. The group's harms are indeed very bad, but they don't have the niche, quirky twist that some of these more fun cults have. I don't say that to be like disrespectful to people in those groups. I'm saying like from a cynical marketing perspective. One of the reasons why I made that real estate video was that I think that the unpaid labor element of the group is really underexplored.
And I get what he's saying, right? You don't hear as much about them being in the news in the way that you do Scientology and some other cults, which really, when you think about it, makes it even more insidious. Like the fact that you're boring in ways is not bringing that attention to the forefront. So that's why I appreciate channels like his who are trying to do that and raise awareness about the Jehovah's Witnesses. I've been interested in learning more about it because I think I mentioned you guys the other day, I live in the land of Prince and he was a Jehovah's Witness. And I just go, how did that happen? How did that happen and why? And I saw somebody made a comment there that they call it, Kathy, I got out of Jehovah's Witnesses just in time because they wanted me to disconnect from my brother and nephew because they are gay. Whoa, wow. That's interesting, Kathy. Kathy, if you would be willing to chat about that, I want to talk about it. Shoot me an email, Natalie at lifeafteraccult.com. I did not know you were in the JWs. Maybe you mentioned it before and then whoosh, you know what I'm saying? It's like a lot is floating around in this head of mine. But that is very interesting. All right, let me, so I don't fall too far behind here. Let me get into some of these start comments here. Anna says, back in the day, I thought BS was ditzy. Wait, BS. Do we mean BS or a different kind of BS? But as I heard more about her from her, I realized she is actually very smart and I would love to hang out with her. I was the ditz. Okay, who's BS? We probably talked about this earlier and, you know, tell me. Lady Victoria says, Tori Magoo suggested a book and it's The Menopause, The Silent Passage by Gail Shelley. I've been reading it. It's really good. Oh, cool. I would love to see that. Marcy says, love Tori's devil horns. Yeah, she used to wear them all the time. I think she still has them. Renee Miller says, I thought they were not supposed to be on the internet, but they have an Amazon wish list. Okay, so Scientologists can be on the internet. They cannot look at anything that's anti-Scientology. But Sea Org members, unless your job is related to it, and then your internet access is very limited, you're not allowed to be on the internet. You're not allowed to be doing that. Not at all. Oh, Brooke Shields. Okay. Thank you, Nancy. See? Whoa. On to the next thing. Brooke Shields. Yes, I get that now. Thank you, Anna, for that. You're right. That's interesting how you kind of changed your mind about her in that way. So Renee, hopefully that answers your question there. Some can be, but most in the series cannot be. But they're putting that out for Scientologists who are public Scientologists more so than, Sea Org members. Although I wouldn't put it past them either to collect money from Sea Org members. I mean, they've done it for David Miscavige's birthday and other things like that. These people make no money, but let's go ahead and take what little they have. Ugh, it's so nasty. Reprise says Prince was always religious. Larry Graham, his bass player, formerly of Sly and the Family Stone, got Prince into the JWs. Oh, I wondered how he got in. Mary Welling says Michael Jackson and his family too. Yeah, I had heard that. I had heard that as well. Yeah, don't we all miss Prince? Just really God, that was such a bummer. That was such a loss to lose him, especially, the way that he died. He should have had so many more years. The community here in the Twin Cities, I will tell you, is still mourning the loss of Prince around here. There is this gorgeous mural at a movie theater or on the side of a wall of this building by a movie theater nearby my house of Prince. It's so beautiful. People go there sometimes and take pictures. People really loved him here. There were stories of how you'd see him riding his bike and stuff in front of one of the local grocery stores, just riding around in the parking lot, that he would bike all over from Paisley Park. And I always thought, that's so cool. And people would say they would see him out and about, like just being a regular person here in the Twin Cities, out in the suburbs too, because his Paisley Park is in Chanhassen, Minnesota, which is probably 20, 30 minutes from downtown Minneapolis, maybe a little bit closer. He is missed. Laura, I have been by Paisley Park a million times, never inside. They charge for all the tours, which not to say it's not worth it, but I don't know. Sometimes I got a hard time spending on money on stuff like that, but I would go. But I have not. Oh yeah, Little Red Corvette. Yeah, throw your favorite Prince song in the comments. I'm going to read this later. I'm going to make a playlist. Your favorite Prince songs, throw them in the comment. If you're on the replay, throw them in the comments there. There's so many. Throw them in there. I want to listen to them later. I'm feeling it now. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling like listening to Prince. All right. Now, again, a little bit of other culty news here. I don't know if you guys have followed this story at all. There is a young woman, Jessica Willis Fisher, belonged to the Willis family. And so there's this family. They had 85 kids. Okay, there was probably 12 or something, and they had a reality show. They were a band doing music, and by all accounts, they look like this happy American family, and things seemed great, and they got a reality show, and after 1 year, it was gone. They were doing other things. I think they got another reality show. The kids start to grow up, and then we find out that there was horrific abuse happening within that family by the hands of the father. All this time, they're on their reality show. Everything looks fine. They're one of these, they belong to a fundamentalist Christian type group church, which brings this whole thing forward later. She wrote a book. In fact, let me pull this up here. I think this was the oldest daughter, Jessica Willis Fisher. The dark truth behind this cult-like reality TV family. Let's listen to this clip.
I stumbled upon a book called Unspeakable, Surviving My Childhood and Finding My Voice by Jessica Willis Fisher. Jessica is a person that we'll be talking about a lot in today's video. She is the oldest of the 12 kids, and a lot of the information I have on this case came from her book. She is a victim in this case. There are other victims, which we will get into some, but most of what I know comes from Jessica's point of view. So that's why she will be discussed so much. So throughout the video, just keep in mind that while I'm focusing on Jessica's story, the same sort of stuff was happening all throughout this family. This family was ran like a cult, with the dad, Toby Willis, at the center. Everyone was under his control. Everyone was under his authority. And unfortunately, this is another example.
Dude just looks evil. I mean, I don't know.
Of a fundamentalist cult-like family being given a platform on TLC. And that's what we're talking about today. But before
So I'm going to link that video down below because she does a great job explaining the whole thing. Oh, and keep your Prince songs coming. I am loving this. You guys are giving me great ideas. Great ideas. It's so tragic. This whole story it's disturbing on so many levels, but going and looking back in hindsight, like they were just putting forward like everything was fine, and it wasn't. This abuse was going on while they were, these kids were growing up, and it's so gross. It's so gross. But she does have a book out. I'm going to link that video down below. There's another article too that talks about her having the book. Jessica Willis Fisher's Unspeakable begins to lift the curtain on her past. This book is my witness statement. And I love that she says it that way, as her witness statement. Heartbreaking, because you're going through it while you're going through it. And then how do you manage the healing from there? It's I will warn you, it's disturbing, but it also shows you how a cult can even be within a family, how that high control can be created within a family like that, and how it happened. So her testimony and sharing her story, I feel like is really going to open some eyes for people. And maybe, my hope too is that maybe networks and shows that do these reality shows of some of these families, that I don't want to say that they should have known, or they known, or how would they know if nobody says? I mean, honestly, you don't know. You don't know. You don't know until you know. So they wouldn't have had a way of knowing. But it blows my mind that that can happen, and it looks so different on the outside. Which in many ways, I mean, yeah, Scientology, but a lot of people know now that Scientology is a cult and why. So this was heartbreaking, but it is on my list too of things that I want to read and look at, because I want to hear her witness testimony, her story about this, and her healing too, and how she's moving beyond what her life after a cult is like. Because for me, as much as I want to spread news and the word about why Scientology is a human trafficking cult, and help to educate on other cults so people don't fall for them, or if they've been in one, that maybe they can feel more supported even here in our community. But this was nasty. So check it out if you guys want to. I'm going to link it all down below. Aloha, Jesse. Welcome, welcome. Okay, we got to talk about Neil Gaiman now. His what would you call her? They're still going through a divorce. Estranged wife Amanda Palmer made a statement about Neil Gaiman and the allegations. So we are going to take a look at that, because I don't believe we've heard from Amanda Palmer yet. And I am going to make the assumption that the vast majority of you know what I'm talking about when I say the Neil Gaiman allegations. I've been talking about it for a couple days. A lot of other channels are following it. You can't open YouTube without seeing a video about it at this point. This news is becoming really big. And the fact that Neil Gaiman was raised in Scientology and held up as an example at the age of 7 of a Scientologist, I think plays into so much of this story, including who his parents were. His dad worked for the Guardian's office, which was the Office of Special Affairs of its time. So it just wasn't some random, we dabbled in Scientology kind of a thing. There's a lot to this story. So let's take a look at Amanda Palmer's response. The Sandman author, Neil Gaiman's former wife, Amanda Palmer, makes statement on allegation. The author denies any wrongdoing. So yesterday we read Neil's statement on all of this, where he pretty much doesn't admit to a lot of wrongdoing. So let's see here. I just want to get to the statement. This is just all about kind of the backstory. They met in 2008. They married in 2011. They announced their divorce in 2022. Amanda Palmer made this announcement, this statement on her Instagram, and it says, as there are ongoing custody and divorce proceedings, I am not able to offer public comment. Please understand that I am first and foremost a parent. I ask for privacy at this time. Then these same people reached out to Neil Gaiman, and he didn't give a response. He pretty much already gave his response, and I feel like he's just going to say, I'm sticking with that. I'm sticking with that. Let me catch up here. Yeah, Constance, the Neil Gaiman stuff is disturbing. After reading that article, I felt sick. Yeah, that is a very, very accurate response to that. It, very difficult to cover. Abigail says, Aaron's video yesterday was intense. I watched it on replay and it was hard not to fast forward at times. Absolutely. There's so much ick in it, but it has to be known, talked about. It's all coming to light, and it's at this point, they're allegations. He's giving his statement. There's, I think, 8 or 9 women that have come forward about this. I don't know if there's going to be a civil case, what's going to come of that, but a lot of people are watching. The part that I appreciate is at least his ties to Scientology are coming to light. His upbringing in Scientology is coming to light. In fact, the underground bunker, Tony Ortega did a great article about this where he lays it out. And what I'm going to do, we're going to pull that up and I'm going to link it down below, because the information about Neil Gaiman's involvement in Scientology growing up and his parents, I don't think a lot of people realize how deep this goes. I really don't think that they do. I think they're starting to find out, but I don't think they really get it yet. For people who don't understand why and how Scientology is damaging. All right, let's look at this here. So I'm going to go down to the part. It's a long article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you guys should. It gets into a lot. The backstory, the accusations. Let's see. Some info on Amanda Palmer is in there. It's really detailed. This was a really researched piece. And then the Scientology ties. Talking about how in 1965, David and Sheila Gaiman moved their family home to East Grinstead as they became more involved in Scientology. Talks about them moving up the ranks, how Neil Gaiman's father was one of the, where's that part? One of the 11 people charged for infiltrating government agencies as part of the Guardian's office, along with L. Ron Hubbard's wife. There's a video in there too. This is a picture of Neil Gaiman when he was a child. I do believe he's 7 here, which is when he did a radio interview with the BBC, basically saying how great Scientology was. And the disturbing thing about that, one of the disturbing things about that interview he did as a child, is you find out that they had this 7-year-old kid doing actual major levels in Scientology. It's bad enough when it's just the beginner stuff, like how to use a dictionary or learning how to learn, although those courses didn't exist back then. The children's courses came out later on. I do believe. I don't think they existed back then. I could be wrong. But that's really young. If he did, because he talks about being a problems release, which is level 1 in Scientology, or grade 1. It's level 1 on the auditing side. It's grade 1 on the processing or the auditor side, grade 0 on the auditing side. So if you're an auditor, you're studying to deliver level 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're a pre-clear receiving it, you're doing grades 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. But he would have had to, if he did the one on problems, he had to do the one on 0. And my former Scientologist can chime in and tell you some of the crap that's on that one. Incredibly inappropriate questions for a child. Incredibly. And he would have had to have done the 0 before he could do the 1. At 7? I don't even know how you do that. I don't even know how you, with a straight face, say some of those things to a child. But check out that article. I'm going to link it down below. I thought that Tony Ortega did a great job laying all of this out, gave a lot of resources, including the transcript of the interview that Neil Gaiman did, gets into the more of the details about his family's involvement with Scientology, the unaliving of their house guests, how that ties into the novel that Neil Gaiman wrote later. Just lots of great info in there. Too much to read the whole thing, but after this, I am going to link it down below. Let's see here. Did I catch up on my starred comments? I think that I did. SP Crusader, Lenny says, one of the latest Scientology magazines, an 11-year-old has gone clear. Wow. So here's the other interesting thing about Scientology. You can actually attest to the state of clear without doing those earlier grades, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the caveat. You don't do them, and maybe they still have you do them. Maybe it's different now. In my day, gather around for back in my day. Back in my day, if you were someone who was clear last lifetime, you did not have to do the grades. You kind of got to, like, pass go, collect $200 and keep going. But later on, they were having people go back and do these. So I don't know what they're really doing today, but it's possible that some of that got avoided, but not all of it, because you're still going to be security checked. There's still going to be confessionals. And I don't know what 11-year-old has got to give up, and they're not going to tailor those things to fit that kid. So you're still having to go through, you're having to locate, and they say you locate and rehabilitate the moment when the person achieved the state of clear, which is going to be that moment when what? When they realize that I've been mocking up my own reactive mind and I'm not going to do it anymore. In Scientology, that's called a clear cognition. People spend buku bucks and amount of money to realize that. And the irony is, you pay all that money to realize that I know I've been creating my own reactive mind. I just need to stop doing it. Well, girl, please, because it's L. Ron Hubbard who says in the beginning, you have a reactive mind. This is what your reactive mind does. Only through Dianetics and Scientology can you rid yourself of this reactive mind. So you basically pay all this money, you go through all these hoops just to realize you didn't really have a reactive mind. You were the one just creating it. Now, here's the thing. When you attest to the state of clear, you don't know what you said. You don't know that saying something close to, I've been creating my own reactive mind and I'm not going to do it anymore. Saying something close to that gets you to attest to clear, but you don't know exactly what you said. I know what I said when I attested to the state of clear, which was very similar to something like that. But there's so many variations of it. And that is the thing that, and you spend a lot of money too, trying to rehabilitate this state of achieving that. And for a child, there's a lot that goes into that still that would be highly inappropriate for a child to do. I mean, let's be honest, it's inappropriate for an adult, but it's even worse for a child. I don't even know how a kid would do it, but they do. They do. In fact, if memory serves me right, and I want to preface this by saying, I am 99% sure. When I was doing my what's called clear certainty rundown at the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles, the blue buildings where they keep the doors shut, you go in is where all the confidential stuff is. I remember seeing a very young child named Elizabeth who was doing the same. And even as a full-blown Scientologist, I was a little bit like, how does that work with a kid that young? And you know who that was? That was Elizabeth Moss. As a child who was in there getting her auditing at the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles. I can only assume doing the same thing, because you don't go there and do services there unless you're, doing like the confidential stuff. You're not there doing something lower on Scientology's bridge to total freedom. No, you're not. I always wondered about that. Like, wow, that girl really did start early in her Scientology career. Really did. Sometimes I think about her and I'm like, is she still a real active Scientologist? I mean, as far as we know, she is, but does she want to leave? Did doing The Handmaid's Tale make her feel any way? Did it trigger anything? We're never going to know unless she actually leaves and shares that. But I would like to think and hope that it somehow does. But then on the other hand, she's a public celebrity in Scientology, and they are treated differently majority of the time. And being that Scientology does not have that many celebrities left, I would assume that they're not trying to piss them off either. Truly. That's what I got for you, you guys. Please hit that like and that subscribe. If you see something, say something culty related, email me, Natalie at lifeafteraccult.com. My sister's coming over this afternoon for some sister time. She's going to help me. We're going to go through some more of Tony's clothes. She's going to help me with that. And maybe we'll pop on and do a video. We'll see how the afternoon goes. Sometimes I have the best of intentions and then I get into something like going through Tony's clothes and I'm like, no. But I know there's some things she told me that she wants to share. So we'll see how the day goes. Make sure when you hit subscribe, you set that notification bell to all to help you get a notification. In the meantime, everybody, I hope you get out and have an amazing cult-free day.